This has probably happened to all of us. You're with a group of people, someone's talking, everyone's quietly nodding along, and you just feel the urge to raise your hand, ask a hard question, or even throw an unexpected idea. It can feel awkward, uncomfortable, but also kind of electric. In this episode, I speak with Jenny Theolin, designer, educator, and unapologetic creative catalyst about what it means to be that person. The one who doesn't just adapt, but pushes boundaries. The one who challenges the status quo, even when it's wrapped in a neat cultural package like Lagom, a Swedish word that means not too much, not too little, just right. We talk about the courage to speak up, the cost of toning yourself down, and why keeping things fun and creative at work might be the most serious thing you can do. Let's dig in. Welcome to the show, Mind Blend. I'm your host, Karen Chong, and I'll be diving into the minds of incredible people, each an expert in their very own way. Together, we'll uncover insights and share ideas so you can be inspired and empowered to navigate your own unique journey in life. Ready to get curious and discover what's possible? Let's blend. So joining me today from Stockholm in Sweden is Jenny Theolin, Head of Learning at Academy. Welcome to Mind Blend, Jenny.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
I'm so happy that we're finally having this conversation. I was thinking about how to introduce you over the weekend, and honestly, I was stuck. Because, if someone were to look you up, they may conclude that you are someone who create memorable, impactful learning experience. But because I know you're so much more than that. You are definitely someone who's like a definition of polymath. So let's dig into it. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what are some of the experiences that shaped you?
Oh, wow. Where to start? Yeah, I live in Stockholm to begin with my 3-year-old daughter and my husband and my slightly senile cat, Miss Mustard Explosion the cat, and work remote for a company called Academy, where we have gotten to know one another. And I would say yes to all those things you described me as. The thing that makes me most happy is when I make ideas manifest, I think. Like whether that is through learning design, community event, but it's the process of not just coming up with ideas, because I think we can all come up with a billion ideas, but it's how do those manifest out in the world?
Mhm. And I know that you have a very interesting story growing up and having lived in many, many countries. How Tell us where you've lived and how do you think those experiences contribute to your personality today?
Yeah, so I had a very privileged upbringing, I would say. My father was a Swedish diplomat. He went up through all the traditional ranks, and my mother and I, and my brother, for a shorter period of time, he moved back to Sweden when he was 16 and I was 6. But with my parents, I traveled the world for the first 19 years together with them. I was on an airplane for the first time when I was 4 days old. So I learned how to fly before I learned how to walk.
Wow.
Um, and yeah, we moved to Tokyo, where I started my life, my toddler years, and then back and forth to Sweden. But I also lived in Rome. I lived in the US, outside Boston, in a town called Belmont. I lived in Vienna. I lived in Istanbul, where I finished my studies and did 1 year of uni, actually. And then when I was 19, I left to move to London on my own, because I wasn't really ready to me, it was like going back to Sweden. It didn't feel like it was going forward.
Mm,
Ready to settle in my own country, considering that I had represented Sweden wherever we've been. I mean, we've been the official representatives of Sweden and Swedish culture, which is ironic, really, since I barely lived there.
yeah. Yeah.
And I've been back in Sweden for the past 10 years. So, yeah.
Hmm. So It's funny that you were representing Sweden without really living there. Do you feel like you grew up in a household that's very Swedish and or define very Swedish, like tradition
I,
typical?
at the time, you believe your reality, right? So, um, you know, I really played into being Swedish. I'm blonde, I've got blue eyes, and I played into the stereotypes. Especially when we housed receptions and traditional Christmas and Lucia and Midsummers and all these um, cultural traditions. I really embodied being Swedish, but when it came to, I guess, my personality and my behavior, that really mimicked the countries that I was in a lot, because I really tried to integrate into those communities. And actually, I remember in Istanbul, at one point, the school, what's it called? Like, not in Swedish it's called a curator, but like it's like a person. It's kind of like a school social worker type person.
Okay.
Had invited me in and my parents in, and he said, I think Jenny is spending too much time with the locals and not enough time with her fellow classmates. And we're both my parents and just looking at each other. It's like, what? Like, yeah, because if she spends more time with her classmates, they'll do their homework on time and we'll build the community in school. And it was so weird for me to get that feedback, because I'm living in Istanbul. There's no point living anywhere if we're just supposed to be in the school environment. Of course, I want about the cultures, and I had loads of Turkish friends. I had a Turkish boyfriend. We barely communicated because his Swedish was non-existent. His English was really bad. My Turkish was okay, but he did speak a bit of German, and my German was quite good. So we ended up making our own language and figuring it out. But yeah, that was really, really odd to me. So I would say, like, I lived by the stereotype of Swedish culture. Even in London, I was referred to the Swedish Jenny.
Oh.
Always in Sweden during the summers. My friends that I made here over the internet, by the way, like MSN and ICQ and all these old school apps, they had nicknames for me depending on where I lived at the time. So I was known as London Jenny. I was known as Turk Jenny.
Uh-huh.
Coming back to Sweden, I wasn't Swedish at all.
So you were Swedish when you're outside of Sweden and vice versa. What is a typical Swedish person's besides the stereotype that you mentioned, blonde and blue eyes? It may not be the same nowadays, though, right?
No, I mean, Sweden has become so much more diverse, and I would say that the majority of my close friends, at least the last 10 years, have been closer to the expat community. But I do have friends from, when I was a teenager, and my husband is one of them, that we ended up getting married, which is fun. But I would say they're a lot more reserved than I am. And if you would just think fashion, I mean, Swedes are known to be quite fashionable, I would say, but it's very, like, during the winter, every single person wears black. Every single, like, you barely see any color. And then in the summertime, their entire wardrobe changes. And it's just like flower power, bright patterns. So I do the opposite. So I'm entering into my black period.
Right.
I'm summer. That's my way to challenge the system. I do tend to have colorful clothes, and during the summer I tend to have more black clothes. It's just but yeah, but I would say a lot more reserved, very sort of, if you think at our academy we work a lot with group dynamics, right? And how we develop in teams and in the corporate world and things, and I do notice there's a lot more face-to-face. Swedes are extraordinarily bad at small talk, and it takes a long time to get in deep. So there's a lot of pleasant conversations, but not as many deep conversations as that.
So part of what I was expecting was true, the reserve, and I didn't know that they are actually all like black in the winter though, because your surrounding is already so dark in the winter in Sweden.
Yeah, but it's the Swedish noir.
Is it a different shade?
Yeah. No, but
Yeah.
yeah, very much dark clothes or like blue jeans, I would say. But I guess I've always been a wild card in Sweden. Like when I moved back,
Hmm.
I thought it'd be a good idea just to go to some interviews and talk to some recruitment agencies. And I noticed very, very quickly that I was the wild card because nobody understood my CV
Hmm.
nor the business that I had been running since 2009. So this was 10 years there. So I'd been running my own business for about 6 years, but I was looking at what can I do in Sweden.
Hmm.
Yeah, they didn't know the agencies that I had worked for. They had no sort of social reference points of where we could have met mutual friends or family. And I noticed very, very quickly that it was very close knit in Sweden and coming in with this really, super creative, slightly odd CV and, value proposition, business proposition. It was difficult for them to give me something. So I just continued my business.
Hmm.
And worked, for the first few years I worked internationally, and then I found Hyper Island and found a good family here. But yeah, definitely a bit of a wild card when it comes to Swedish.
I think you being colorful has always really just made an impact on me. So anyone who knows Jenny, she looks colorful. She has a very colorful, bold personality. Bold in a sense of not just ignoring everyone in the room and do whatever you want, but just not afraid to try something new, push boundaries. You don't just stop when, say, the door is closed, but you will like poke the door to see if it opens.
You've seen The Shining.
Yeah. So that's that's how I associate Jenny. And it's interesting because you're Swedish by descent, you lived in London. How could you pinpoint how you became like this personality? You're not just something that people can like plug you in to a shape.
Yeah, I reflect. I'm very self-aware. I've noticed, sort of reflecting on past experiences and sort of origin stories. And I think if you're raised by, well, the fact that you know that you're not going to live somewhere longer than 3 years, you have to learn empathy. You have to make friends quickly.
Mhm.
Have to, be understanding and open to new cultures, new food. Um,
Yeah.
this having to constantly adapt and then also constantly learning. So, each new place, I had all these learnings from the previous schools and the previous places that I continuously put into practice.
Hmm.
So I think my social nature has been shaped by that. And I also think uh, my expertise in learning and why I started working with learning was that's kind of what it's come down to. It's like, how do we live and adapt? And how do we stay resilient? And yeah, I think it made me very like, I lean into change, I lean into risk, I lean in. Like when the pandemic happened, part of me was just like, this sounds awful, but part of me was just like excited because I was in a space that I recognized where everything changed. And
Uh-huh.
that's to me, everything changed when I
Yeah.
entered school, my home, my friends, again, like just the food, like,
Mhm.
so, so yeah, I was sort of thriving in the chaos.
That's good. Like it's because you almost like you have to be brave. You have to be brave. You can sort of tune it up or down, but like you can turn up the volume way high when you need to. In London, the stereotype is also people are reserved. And did they call you the Swedish Jenny, like with any particular connotation?
Oh, that we're all like naked all the time. No, I mean, I was like, I even have a testimonial from a previous creative director. I can't remember what the first thing he says. I've got it written down somewhere. But he referred to me as and often quite a bit scandalous. I've toned that down. That's like, I'm trying to be an adult. But I think like London to me was a manifestation of all the cultures that I'd experienced.
In
And
what way?
well, I stayed there for nearly 15 years, which is the longest I've lived anywhere. And the beauty of London was that I could move area and it would almost be like moving country.
Yes, I 100% agree with that.
And the diversity, and I could still speak Turkish when I was drunk in the kebab shop. One thing that I did, fun story. So I moved back.
Mm-hmm.
And internationally, I was the Swede. I moved back. I realized very quickly that I'm not. So I had to claim my own nationality. So every piece of work I did had to have Sweden in it. So I did there's a UK series of events called Glug. I don't know if you know which one. But I did a Glug in Stockholm under the moniker of a Swedish production, so I could cheese and get all. I wrote for 2 guidebooks to Sweden. One was a guide to Stockholm, and one was a City Times 60. It's like a creative's guides to the world. Then someone, don't know who, nominated me to be on what was then the heyday of Twitter, to be Sweden, because Sweden had it was called Curators of Sweden, and every week they gave the account to a citizen.
Wow.
So I remember when I was allowed to do, I started it with a semi-naked picture in a sauna with my cousin and his friends who are wildly tattooed. It went viral. And my friends were like, on Twitter, Jenny moved to Sweden. Jenny became Sweden.
Yeah.
And then someone asked me to be put forward to sit on the board of Design Sweden, which was like it's kind of like the DBA in the UK. And I went in there and did loads of work with the then chairman. We moved over to English. We changed the name to English. We did lots of to try and get this diverse portfolio of designers to be part of the association. I was like, okay, I need to. So that was kind of my sort of campaign to be known in Sweden. Which kind of worked, I would say. I mean, I continued working and I found then my place at Hyper Island, and yeah, rest is history.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's not unfamiliar to me. You are that ethnicity, but besides that, there's nothing really that you can connect with the ethnicity, like really until you move. Like family, yes, it's a Swedish family, but you're in all these different countries, and then you're different from the locals. And I am similar to that, but maybe not as much. I don't think I can really be, when people ask me where I'm from, it's hard to answer. Like, do you want to know where I was born or what passport I hold or where I'm living right now? So it's kind of similar. And a funny story. Originally, I wanted to talk to Jenny about something that I read from a book. It's called Lagom. It's like a Swedish concept of just enough, not too much. So originally, I was going to talk to Jenny about that. And she gave me a plot twist. Now, let's first define from your perspective what Lagom is. Or like if someone were to do some research, what would they find?
You'll probably find there's loads of sort of theories of the origins for Lagom, and I'm certainly not the expert, as we heard. But in a nutshell, I mean, Sweden is very, apart from Lagom, we have another sort of unwritten rule, which is called Lagom, which basically means nobody is above someone else. It's extremely democratic. So this acts against, people speaking up in meetings sometimes. It it can really throw you. And Lagom, whether these theories are true or not, there's sort of two sides. There's that it comes from the words laget om, and laget means team. So it's like, say you're sharing a glass of water, everyone gets just enough, so it can be shared around the circle. And then there's another theory that it's basically the word log means law. So it's just like the rules of the system. It's enough. And the good things about law, say, is that like in the world of extremes, which we're also facing, Lagom is actually quite radical. Like if you think about it, because it really means that, it's never too little, never too much. Like it's this just right, and there's harmony in that. And there's also this like, if it's about the sharing aspect, it gives space for everyone. And it's, can be seen as very sustainable. Because it's about the sustainable joy. It's not about the peaks and troughs.
Yeah.
But if you ask me,
well, let's get started.
I don't know. For me, sometimes it's like, I don't like to settle. And I think Lagom can kill ambition. And I think it can be seen as like the death to bold ideas. And, we kind of need those crazy, colorful, and it doesn't have to be that they're the ones that, I was talking about ideas manifesting. It doesn't have to be that they're the ones that manifest at the end, but they will pull up the moderate ones. You need to have this, in creativity, you need to be able to feel like you can take risks.
Yeah.
And, you don't hold back, because that's another thing. Like if it has to be Lagom, it's like you don't, it just makes me feel like if someone would give me that feedback, people would say, fuck off.
Like you're just enough. Like what sort of feedback? Like you're just right.
If someone asks me, I much prefer challenging and going big than holding back and doing, because like the definition of just enough is very, very hardly defined. Because they were in a room with really bold and creative individuals. Our status quo of Lagom is probably completely different.
Yeah.
So it's
objective.
Yeah. It's very it's assuming a lot about the people, I think. But I would still say like all the other sort of connotations about, being polite and things. I'm so polite. I just like, elevating and making ideas the best they can be. And just enough isn't enough.
Yeah. If you're the average, then you're average, mid, vanilla. You're not memorable, I think.
That's the thing. I don't think like, it's kind of like Lagom keeps the peace. But sometimes we need to shake things up, because like how else will we drive change? And how else, like I learned it the hard way, I would say, when I worked at Hyper Islands, which is an international global digital school. I was running an MA there. And it was really tough, because this master's degree was for senior professionals, mid to senior professionals, so everything up to CEO. I had in my different classes. And it was tough. And it wasn't until actually just the other week I had a meeting with a leadership expert consultant, and she said to me, so I was talking about it, I was explaining about my experience, and she said to me, it's crazy how in these like bold education, the program leader or the course designer, we are transformative leaders, and usually you're not liked at that moment. When people are going through transformation, it's hard, like it's difficult. And it kind of, it should be like learning is messy. So I get my sort of receipts way later when they've gone through this transition impact. And what really stood out to me was that she said, we don't have those type of leaders in the workplace.
Uh-huh.
They're so, I'm really generalizing here and assuming a lot too, but the way she put it across was it's such a different leadership skill to transform people and grow people than it is to lead like strategy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really interesting thought concept. And if Sweden is stereotypically known as Lagom, like where is the change and transformation?
Yeah. So how has this approach to everything helped you? What I mean is, if you were more lagom, how much better are you now because you are not just conforming to this lagom way of living?
I would say I'm super confident. Like I don't get imposter syndrome, for example, because I know that I'm not the expert in many times. Like, and I know that sometimes if I push the status quo, I won't have all the facts, but that's just part of the process. So I would say that it makes me a lot more confident and it makes me a lot more creative. I spoke to you earlier about feedback, and once I've a previous boss said to me at some point, he said, "Stay in your lane."
Oh, he did say that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't. And it worked out really well for me and Project Modernity. But just the fact that someone felt the need to play into the bureaucracy in like, this is your role, this is your expectations. Whereas for me, a lot of the work that I do is just treat people how I want to be treated and work from a human perspective and place, not a role. Like, yes, roles and responsibilities, of course, but still, like, you can still be you. And I think that has sort of evolved through the years of living all over the place.
So when he said stay in your lane, do you remember if it was because of you chiming into different things that's not in your immediate roles and responsibility, or is it your personality? Do you remember what it was?
Oh, I know exactly what.
Share as much or as little as you want.
I was asked to step in and produce quite a senior leadership event, and it wasn't my role at the company. And I did say, it's like, yes, I'm more than happy to do it, but I will bring my wealth of experience in producing events, because creative events has been something that I've always worked with, and I will do this properly. So it was more like, well, you're going to be working directly with the global CEO, and I think it was just fear, really, from my boss's part that I things up too much, which I did. But I think it was just, those kind of comments I see say more about the people who say them than what it does about you.
Yeah.
But that's a clear example of like coming in to Swedish corporate world and experiencing this is like the status quo standard of how we do things around here. Don't come in with your creative ideas. Don't make it fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that was an interesting case study of me feeling challenged more than anything, to change their mind.
So how did you respond?
I responded by doing the project like how I would do it, and I think
so not changing anything.
no. I think they were pleasantly surprised, and when I pitched my creative ideas, the powers that be loved them and went out of their way to make them even more special. I think they weren't prepared that an actual event producer would come in, because it was very much an internal project. And then you don't have certain specialities that you usually would outsource them, right?
Yeah.
So I think it was certain expectations thing, but it all turned out really well in the end. And massive thanks from the global CEO in front of all their top people. So that's nice.
Yeah.
But it was just that moment in time when you're just entrusted to do this project, and instead of, bigging you up, I'm like, you're gonna make this such an amazing event, it's like, stay.
That wasn't he the one who asked you to do this, or like asked you to be on this committee or help out with this event? Was he afraid that you were gonna outshine him or something? It ties back to the fear thing.
I think there's a lot of people who have a fear for creativity.
Yeah.
And it's, I wouldn't say it's happened more than once, but if you work agency side, for example, like I worked in design agencies and advertising agencies for a decade before I went to learning, there your expectation is to be super creative all the time. So I would say in that respect, I was more Lagom, compared to my other designer friends. But when you then come into spaces where creativity doesn't exist in sim, and I'm thinking like whether it's ideas, but also visual design, like looking at different communication strategies that are a little bit wild. Like during the pandemic, I got leaders to record TikTok videos with their teenagers as invitations to company offsites. They would never have done that if it wasn't a pandemic, if it wasn't me, probably.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting when you are put into a not so creative space and then know like how much do you then dial down. But what I love about our academy where I work now is that I'm not the only creative in the room, which just gets me excited and it makes me more creative.
Yeah.
And also the impact that we have on our clients who may or may not be expecting the level of creativity which we provide. So the surprise of having something really well designed, looking really great, interesting, ways to communicate internally and like all that creative support, I think we can do a lot of good with.
Yeah. And it's important for the company, your surroundings to not hand slap you. Like they can be surprised, but don't hand slap you for being creative or doing something new. I think it doesn't work anymore in corporations or in the world we live in now. And
wherever creativity is stifled, it just
your life is stifled.
Yeah, but it also breeds people with less confidence. Like I'm sure there's 1,000 memes of someone coming up with an idea in a room and everyone just like stares at them. It's like, are you stupid or something? That's ridiculous. But if they thought about it for like 30 seconds, they would have gone, but there is something in that. Or like, there's an element of that we can use. Or it inspires something else. But people are so often just shut down.
Yeah. Like how do you balance being creative with collaboration if the rest of the team is not exactly open to creativity?
Well, I think we're all creative to some extent. Like, I think a lot of it has just been sort of drilled out of us. I think creativity is like, I think John Cleese mentioned is as an operating system. It's just the way we kind of operate. And you can learn creativity too. So I think it's, if I would work with a team or a client who would say that they're not creative, I would probably challenge them on that in fun ways. Whether it is a fun, interesting check-in question that they would never have expected, or something to sort of illuminate that. I think that's important. And then also I would bring in even more play. I think like a lot of what I want, for the workplace in general is obviously more well-being, happiness, play. Yeah. And I think if you would think about like, when was the time that you were like the happiest? Were you having fun? And,
Yeah.
like fun at work is a huge sort of part of my mission, that we can and we are allowed to enjoy our workplace. I think creativity supports that a lot.
A lot of companies sort of equate having a fun workplace as having ping pong table, game day, social, like just that, but nothing change in their day-to-day operations, which is, yeah, it's a misunderstanding. To
Totally.
have a fun workplace is people you like to enjoy your time with. Maybe not 8 hours a day every day anymore, but whenever you're with them, you would want to enjoy the time. And because our workforce is changing, so each generation, they're more used to having an enjoyable surrounding. Otherwise, they will challenge. And the challenge is good because you push changes, like you said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly that. And fun at work is defined differently for everyone. Just think about, I mean, if I would mention team building to my husband, for example, he would be like, I would never want to go outside. It's horrible.
Escape room? No.
um, I'm using his. I'm sure he would very much want to spend time with his team. Sorry, team. There's a lot of people who find those things extremely awful, but that's because they're not well designed. That it's an afterthought from maybe a PA gets in her his or her lap or their lap. It's like, okay, organize something for the team, and they're just like, oh, we don't know what to do. So I think there's to work creativity and play and fun into the day-to-day intentionally is what we need to do. I know a lot of teams and cultures, like in my designer heydays, we would go to the pub all the time, middle of the day.
Uh-huh.
And most brand identities semi-drunk. That was the culture. It's not me now. There's definitely then sort of madmen of designer world. Oh my god, it was nuts. But I was part of that culture, and actually, just a side note on that. When I was interviewing for a role at a company called Clinic, they were bragging in the interview about their culture. And they said, oh, we always go to the pub on Fridays. We have gigs in the office because we share with a music management company. And they were just like really laying it on thick. And then I said, well, that sounds really great. They offered me the job. And then I said, would you mind? Like, because I don't have any family in the UK. I have a few friends, not many. Work to me, this is where I'm going to be spending my time. These are the friends I'm going to have. You said that you always go to the pub on Fridays. Would you mind if I came along before I signed the contract? And they went, yeah, of course, come. And I did. I signed the contract, and it was like the most fun 4 years of my working career. And then that part became part of the recruiting process. So they always offer before coming, like, do you want to come along to one of our socials? And it really worked out well. Never in Sweden. If you drink during the day,
you're detention or something.
Yeah, stay in your lane without alcohol.
So I really applaud you for being who you are, because just by doing that, you found something like in your gut, you want to know how it is to hang out with these people. And because they are true to the words, like they really have a good culture, they have nothing to hide. And this is the difference between like staying safe. Because somebody who stays safe may be like, okay, they give me this, I'm just gonna stick with what they gave me, and I won't ask for more because they may like take the offer back or something. So we definitely need more people like you. Yeah.
I hope, it's one of those catch-22 sometimes, because you don't want to be too creative and challenging and create fear in others, But I believe, like, I just really believe that you can be in any role, like whether you're a facilitator or team lead, CEO or hairdresser, you work in a shop, you should still be able to show your personality and show, who you are and where you've come from, and have these conversations. Because I think if you don't have the conversations with your colleagues and peers, and these deep conversations that I've struggled a little bit with, sort of the stereotypical Swede, they won't understand where that's coming.
Yeah.
I think it's very much a two-way street for everybody to stay happy, because even like someone like me being in the wrong role or in the wrong, I don't know, community or whatever it could be, that has that's a negative thing for me too. Like, I'm not saying like I'm the best because I'm super creative. I'm just saying that it's just the way I decide to, design and live my life.
Mm-hmm.
I think if we can just, be a bit more communicative and just have more meaningful conversations, and exactly stuff like this podcast is fantastic because it talks about, you say, we're talking about origin stories. We're talking about where do these things come from? Where do they, how do they happen? Like, how do you become who you become? And those stories are fantastic to have, with and work colleagues to really understand each other. And
yeah. So if you have 2 more minutes, I want to do rapid fire questions. So not much thinking needed. All right. Number 1, what's your power color? A color that makes you feel unstoppable immediately.
cobalt blue.
Oh, I was gonna go for pink, but now I guess I should have known that.
I'm wearing, no, people don't see me right now, but I'm wearing cobalt blue, and I have to take it behind me in cobalt blue. So.
Yes. All right. Next one. If your personality were a pattern, what would it be?
Pattern?
Yeah, those stripes, polka dots, leopard.
I would probably say polka dots, maybe different size.
Very
uniform.
Very Jenny. Okay, next one.
My new t-shirt. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In cobalt blue.
Yeah.
Different sizes, polka dots.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next one. What's an over-the-top moment you are secretly proud of?
It was when I was working at a Swedish school called Berks, and my students were going off to internship. And I was so irritated when two of my top students said, "We've got an internship." And I said, "Are they paying you?" And they said, "No." And I went absolutely nuts. And I wrote this rant on LinkedIn about this, which was, in hindsight, probably not the best thing to do. But I just went like crazy on the industry and just like, this is not acceptable, blah, blah, blah. And then what ended up was I created a website called the Green Light List. That was a list of companies that juniors and juniors and students and inexperienced people gave the green light as a good place to work. Because even if they didn't get paid, they got the value back that was intentional. So it ended up being something really nice. But I probably would have written it slightly differently, and not after this event that we were at.
No.
Having more fun. I'll try and dig it out.
Yes, I would love to see it.
But I was feeling a bit nervous about that because it really took off. And I acted on it, and I created a website, which now is down. But yeah.
Yeah, it's something you believe in. And you stood up for your students. Good for you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Last one. What's the most memorable reaction someone had to your style or energy?
I think it was actually the first time I met a lovely woman called Tash Wilcox. She used to be head of school Manchester, Hyper Island. But at the time, I didn't know her as that, and it was before my Hyper Island days. And I was doing a talk in Manchester. It was called Blab, and I was doing a talk there. And then she drew the poster. She's an illustrator as well, so she'd illustrated the poster. That's how I got to know her. And she came up to me after the session in the talk, and she said, "Jenny, if I quit today, can I come work with you?" And that just made me just like, it's just such a nice thing to say, because I don't think a lot of people also have the guts to come up and say something like that. And then serendipity had its way, and we ended up working together a few years later. So that was
Yeah, that's so nice. Because of your energy, you attract, you make certain people have an impression of you and it sticks with them. And you never know. Like the creative industry is very small.
it is. And
What I mean,
I would also say on that subject, like I had another person come up to me this year doing creative mornings, and she came up and she said, "Hi Jenny, it's taken me 7 months to meet you." To me, it's like, oh, I've been like trying to come up with the like confidence to reach out to you. Like I've been following your work and blah, blah, blah. And then I said to her, I was obviously really flattered, but I said, like it's one of my top pieces of advice, especially to like graduates and students, is like found your heroes, because people who love what they do often loves talking about it as well. So it's a great, like if they have like the worst thing that can happen is that they don't reply. Second worst thing is that they reply and they're too busy, which was my instance when she then wrote me again. Or the third, that they ghost you. So yeah, like reach out to the people that you aspire to or you inspire you.
You know what? That just gave me a huge boost of confidence to reach out to all these celebrities for my next episode. Well, thank you very much, Jenny, for sharing your stories, your growing up, living in different countries, how you are not Lagom, depending on the surroundings. And it's just sharing how we can be more intentional.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to this episode of Mind Blend. If you enjoyed the conversation, don't forget to follow and share it with anyone who needs to hear it. And let's keep the conversation going. Connect with me on LinkedIn or leave me a comment. Until next time, stay curious, keep exploring, and let's continue to blend our minds and discover what's possible.